Bayou's us when it comes to sales tax was not affected by the COVID issue. So we got really lucky there. And we benefited from being lucky. You know, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good in some respects. And that was this community. So all in all, even with the downturn in some of the user fees, we actually ended up higher in revenues. And then, of course, the same goes for expenditures. Obviously, the adopted budget really only had two things. We had the Chamber of Commerce support, and then our administrative costs, which were a little bit down because obviously, like I told Type A, some of the things we had planned to do at the end of the year when it came to training and that sort of thing, we obviously couldn't do. And so we obviously pared that back. Wasn't a whole lot of difference, but it was a little bit lower, about 3.5% in terms of what we had budgeted. So the big one here is going to be y'all's transfers out. That's always your biggest expenditure of the year when it comes to the park M&O side of parks, and then the debt service for your y'all's half of the YMCA debt. So obviously the YMCA debt stayed the same for the fiscal year, but because of the park issue, now a big part of this is I moved, and this was the plan. If you remember, we were going to slowly be taking away the personnel side of the Type B's funding from your budget and your fund, and slowly shifting line by line those things over to the general fund to free up cash flow and to free up projects for you guys. So we actually made some changes 2 fiscal years ago, with like the first, I think it was salaries is what we started with. And then this year, that's why you see such a dramatic drop in the transfers out, is because I shifted all the personnel expenditures to public works in the general fund. So Vince and Thomas both are two existing parks people. All of that line, and you'll see this on the in the drop. It's almost half of what we budgeted for is all personnel. So you guys, we've finally gotten to the point in the general fund where it's absorbed those personnel costs in public works. Quite literally, even in the public works department, in their amended budget, you see a dramatic change because, I moved all that over for the amended budget in anticipation of next year, you guys only funding the M&O side of the park expenditures. So you're just be focused on, like I say, maintenance and upkeep and new projects. And that'll kind of dovetail into what we'll be talking about when it comes to the proposed budget. So we see a dramatic drop in the adopted budget versus the amended budget and the transfer out to general fund, and that's why you're not transferring as much over, because we moved a lot of that over to the general fund and in the public works department. So we're actually ending up with a fairly significant increase of the fund balance, again, which was part of the plan. We talked about this a couple of years ago. We were trying to rebuild that fund balance, because when you look back, even on the statement there, we ended 2018 with just under 33,000 in fund balance, and we're going to be ending this year at 334. So we made a dramatic change there, and again, the reason there is to start freeing up cash flow so you guys can start looking at projects which will be in the adopted budget for next year, and we talked about a little bit last time. So at this point, I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys have over the adopted versus the amended budget for this year.
I don't think I have any.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Me too.
Okay, so at this point, Pam, we'll need a motion and a vote on the amendment to the current year budget.
I'll accept a motion to amend the 2019 to 2020 budget.
I'll make the motion.
I have
I'll
a motion.
second.
Do I have a second? Okay.
I'll second.
Who was at this? Okay. You have a second? Bill. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think that was everyone. Any opposed? If not, We'll move right along. We'll discuss and consider and take action on the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget. Josh?
Yes, ma'am. I did this last time and I forgot to do it again, but we'll get there. I had,
What's different from what you all accepted last month?
well, we didn't, last month was just the proposed, just to give you an
Discussed.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just to give you an idea what was going to be in the budget. And if you remember, going back to last month, we did not actually have the a lot of the final number. Maybe we did actually propose budget for the new project that we're doing in Cooper Valley. Right. So we talked about that last month. And Pam, I don't think you were here.
I was not here.
Pam wasn't here.
I was just reading the minutes and I thought, okay, what's the wording?
If
is the
you'll
same,
remember the
so-
struggle of me having to run the meeting.
Well, yeah. So Pam,
Sorry.
Pam,
You did good, Dustin.
that's going to be the biggest difference here. And I'm going to scroll down on the, and I apologize for this. I should have included this page in your adopted budget, but I'm going to scroll down in the global budget for the council to the parks department. And so we can kind of talk about what these numbers, mainly the transfer out to the general fund, what that is. Okay. So, or the transfer out. Yeah. So, wait, hold on, that's the amended budget. Yeah, hold on, I gotta get to look at the amended budget. I need to get down to the adopted budget part. Because obviously when we amend the budget for you guys, that affects the global budget overall. And so, let me get down to this. That way we can talk about what the 236,715 and transfers out to general fund is. And Again, I did this last time, and I apologize for not including this sheet in your budgets.
I think you showed it in your camera, right?
I think I
Last
did.
time.
I think I did.
Yeah.
But again, okay, so right, so we are anticipating, obviously, as we just talked about, ending the year at just over 334 in our fund balance. So that'll obviously be our starting fund balance for the next fiscal year. We're anticipating continued growth when it comes to sales tax. And of course, I've now got to scroll back up to my assumptions here when it comes to sales tax. But I'll tell you, sales tax wise, I actually included a pretty conservative 2.5% growth rate when it comes to sales tax. Now, you're not going to see that in the adopted budget line or percentage wise, because that comparison is to the previously adopted budget, which is a little bit higher. But that's a 2%, 2.5, should be a 2.5% difference there. So we are anticipating maybe not as high as we had this year, which is 9%, but about 2.5%. Obviously hoping that we'll obviously exceed that. I actually did not include any JBA use fees in the proposed budget. Again, very, very hyper conservative on this because we have no idea what's going to happen with COVID, whether ball fields are going to open up, whether it's going to be any easier to do that. So I just had rather not count on it. And then if and when things open up and we're able to kind of get back to normal, that'll just kind of be gravy. And we'll amend the budget next year to include those revenues. And then miscellaneous revenue, that's just kind of a catch-all from things that we kind of typically have in a given year. There's not any real specifics when it comes to miscellaneous revenues. Again, we get down to our expenditures. Very simple here. When it comes to expenditures directly out of Type A, we have the Chamber of Commerce support. And it is likely that I can probably see that being adjusted. It's been the same amount for a few years here. But because we did not enter any type of, conversations about that over the summer, I just left that the same. And that may be something we talk about in the next fiscal year, depending on how the year goes, right? And sales tax wise. And then the administratively, right around $5,000 is usually what we spend on a year and that comes to staff training. So, you know, if we put some stuff together for you guys, it's just kind of a catch-all for that administrative cost there. It's pretty minimal. So the big deals here, as we just discussed, is going to be the transfers out for you guys. We'll get the debt service out of the way. That 154,790, that is the Top B's half of the YMCA debt for next year. So, and that, you know, that's pretty standard. So really what we're talking about is the 236,715. I'm gonna scroll down to the park budget on this one. In the general fund, and again, I apologize for not having this in front of you. Now, I will say 30, if you remember, general fund has kind of been letting Top B off the hook when it comes to administrative transfer, right? Because both me and which has been Mike and now it's Miranda, part of our salaries are, you know, Top A and Top B both pay for our time, and so it helps offset that. So 30,000 of that transfer out is for that. The remaining 206,715 comes from these specific areas in the Parks Department budget. 0 is in personnel, as we just talked about in the amended budget. You won't see that again at all going forward after October 1st. We have it in the budget because it was audited, and obviously in 2019, and obviously we adopted those costs, or those costs were included in the adopted budget for this year, but the amendment, we removed those, and obviously going forward, we won't have those in Top B's budget going forward, and that's the plan. So we have 17,650 in materials and supplies. What is that? Okay, that is uniforms for the Parks guys, an offset there, 1,500. Office supplies of 150 is pretty standard. Parks materials and supplies at 12,000. That is right about where we ended up this year. So we feel like that's going to be about the same. And then field materials and supplies, which is about the same number as actually the exact same number as we adopted last year. And again, those numbers we feel like are going to be an uptick from where we end this year, because hopefully we're going to have people on the fields, right? So we're in the parks, so we're going to need that back up to speed. A significant change in the repairs and maintenance section of this, which is about a 43% drop from what we adopted last year. A big part of that is because we had we knew we were going to have a big repair on the irrigation R&M side going into this year. That ended up actually being even more than what we thought it was going to be. We had budgeted $20,000 and ended up at $30,000, just under $30,000 when it was all said and done. Now that was not all one fix. Big chunk of that, about 20,000 of that was one big fix. We had to redo the entire system, but the other remaining was things that happened during the year. So we're not going to have that again this year. So we've dropped that all the way back down to kind of historical norms of $3,000. So there's a big drop in the repairs and maintenance side of this for you guys. The IT services aren't really, frankly, immaterial, but I set those aside like I do in every other department. That's $300. Other uses, this is the big one, right? Or these next two are going to be the big ones. We have, in terms of, actually, they're really not that much of a change from what we adopted last year to what you're being asked to adopt this year, which is last year we adopted just under 90,000 in other uses. 82,000 of that was park utilities. Okay, you might imagine, our utility costs this year came way down because the splash pad wasn't on this year. So that was a big chunk of our savings. We adopted an $82,000 park utility budget. We're probably going to end up around $25,000 this year just for watering the grass. We had obviously a fairly significant, a really significant savings and not having to pay for the splash pad. Excuse me. Obviously, going to next year, again, assuming that we get some of it back to normal, the splash pad is open again next year, so we're bringing that back up to historical norms of 80,000. And some of our other lines, the building utilities around 6,000, and some other remaining line items are a few $100s each, for a total of around 88,000, which is a slightly less than what we adopted last year. And then the biggest change, if you want to look at it in terms of what's changed from the adopted budget last year, is in the capital outlay over 5,000 line. So we have capital outlay under 5,000, which is going to be some, the Gator, that got stolen. We're looking to replace that you guys approved from last time. And then the big one is going to be, and some tools that we had go missing. But the big one's going to be the park project, right? We have just over 72,000 in capital outlay, over 5,000, and that was the park project that you guys we brought to you guys last month, that you guys approved to be placed in the budget that goes into Cooper Valley. That is quite a bit of work. If you remember, some improvements, some walkways, some park implements, some irrigation. One of our first, and I think it's really my first pocket park. Well, I think what we've been referring to as a pocket park that we've actually funded from scratch since I've been here. So that's going to be really exciting, especially for that part of town and that neighborhood. So all in all, our approved budget last year was 225,130, and then that did include the personnel cost. This year's proposed/adopted is 206,715, which is a drop. Obviously, we're saving quite a bit on the personnel side, but because we're including the park project, it's going to even that out a little bit more. So basically what we've done is we've taken a big chunk of our cost in personnel, which is right under $80,000, and basically we've exchanged that. We're using about the same amount of funds, but we're putting that towards park improvements and not personnel cost this upcoming year. So lots of information. And again, if you, I know I'm keep referring to the screen that I'm looking at. You guys can't see it, and I don't know how to. If I could figure out how to share the screen, if I could even do that, I should have figured that out by now. But I've not had to do that before. I don't know. Let me see if I can do this.
You just click that share screen button right at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Man, I live on Zoom.
Oh, I did the wrong one. I think I did the wrong screen. Hold on. Let me.
Nope,
You
there
can
it
pick
is.
which screen.
You
There
see
you
it?
go.
Yes.
Yep.
So you can see it scrolling up and down.
Can you start over, Josh? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I apologize. I should have. I remember seeing the button, but anyway, now you can verify all the numbers that I just told you all about. So there you can see at the top and I'll just take these by category. Personnel is basically zeroed out. Not basically, it is zeroed out for the amended budget as we just talked about, and the adopted budget. And then here are the remaining categories, what I just referred to. So slightly lower budget than last year, and a big chunk of that going towards park improvements. And when I say improvements for a new park. So
Josh, can you hear me?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Where's all the payroll coming out of?
We moved that.
So Dustin, I guess I do have to start all over.
No, don't start
No,
over.
so Merle, we were talking about that. I'm just giving you a hard time. So what I did, the plan has been over the last couple of years of slowly moving the personnel costs over to the general fund to free up cash flow in Type B so you guys can do more park projects. So as of this year, the amended budget, we've done that, and going forward, you guys won't see any personnel costs in your budget, aside from some dramatic change in the general fund where Type B needs to start funding that again.
Okay, I understand. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments? If
No,
not,
ma'am.
I propose a motion to accept the proposed budget, the 2021 proposed budget.
I'll make a motion. We accept the budget as stated.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And we have a second.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
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 Are there any objections? If not, it is approved. Does anyone have future agenda items request?
I'm good.
No, ma'am.
Everyone's good?
I'm good, except we need to meet
All
in
right,
person.
Josh, it's up to you.
What'd you say, Merle? We need to
Would be
meet in
nice.
person.
Yeah.
Is that a
So
warning?
this meeting is adjourned. Did we
Thank
do
you,
all right?
guys. Have a good evening.
We did good.
Cut Merle off.
Good job, Merle. See y'all later.
All right,
Get the
bye.
card,
Thank
get
you.
Bye.
the